Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Resident Alien Season 3, Episode 2. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we're picking up in the aftermath of the last episode where Asta is trying to, do her date with Joseph just so it could give Harry time to break into his apartment, which Darcy's not too keen on this idea because it's like, right, the fact of the matter is, Harry failed to try and destroy, his plan was to destroy this planet, and look, it's here, so that means this plan of Harry's is going to be crappy too, which ultimately ended up being the case. But it's sweet because it's Darcy being a best friend looking out for her or her bestie. And I love Asta just being like, no, I'm fine. And it's like they reference a bully or whatever, and Asta's like, what? Who? No. I mean, yeah, she did, but that was in third grade. Who cares? It's like obviously it still matters because obviously you remember it just as much as Darcy did. So, and does it help that Harry's like, oh, do you want this, or do you want a pie? I'm suggesting you probably get some kind of chicken pie or something. It's like, why? What's this for? It's like, well, it's kind of customary. We give people food they want or whatever, on the suicide mission. Darcy's like, see what I mean? But she's like, no, it's going to be fine. So, Harry and Darcy, originally just going to be Harry, but Darcy helps break into the place. I love their dynamic. It's kind of crazy to think of obviously going back to season 1 that they went on a date. It's just funny that I'm always so curious. Will they ever do any romantic situations between Harry and Asta or Harry and Darcy? I don't see that happening, but still. It's just her just being in the know now, and it's just it's one of those things where in a TV show where certain characters don't know, but the moment now they're part of the dynamic of, oh, now and we get to have fun shenanigans with it. So her and Harry break into the apartment. And I love that all Darcy's complaining about. I love that it's they're both kind of bumbling idiots with this situation because they're not focusing on them. He's trying to focus on the mission. But he's kind of an idiot, but he doesn't recognize himself as an idiot, even though we've seen he's thought himself superior to humans in a lot of ways. But he's he was kind of an idiot before he spent all this time with humans, but maybe there is some truth to he's got stupider, dumber, not stupider, Jesus, dumber being around humans. But Darcy was just complaining about oh my god, look at all the stuff he gets in this apartment, and this stove or whatever, just $600. No, it was a microwave that was $600, and they ended up falling into a trap. I love that because it's it is suspicious that you just have a random pizza box there, but it turns out the pizza was fine. But then there's no pepper, so he goes over and the pepper ends up being the trap, and they're stuck in. It almost kind of reminds me of the thing in season 2 of Loki, which compresses and gets smaller and smaller. Heavily reminded me of that thing. And so they're stuck, and it ended up being this kind of beautiful bonding moment where these two characters who feel like failures in their lives didn't complete their missions, and especially how it ties into the whole larger conversation that Harry was oh, every human being thinks that they are unique, but Harry feels like a failure in many different regards. I failed to destroy this planet, and now I'm going to fail to save it. And then obviously Darcy's got her in her eternal failures about being a skier, and it also ties into, as we dived into last season, her parents are a piece of work, so there's all of that as well. But they kind of bonded over right, the fact is Darcy's no, we're not failures, we're actually something special. The fact is, we're trying to save the world. No one else would even try, considering how hard something like that is. So it makes us very unique because we're here trying to do that. So it was kind of this neat, sweet bonding moment between them, where it's hey, we are special. We aren't failures. We're doing something no one else could do, no one else would do under our circumstances. So. And I do love the resolution to the situation was Max, who is embracing being the alien tracker. Now that Sahara's not here, he's got 2 new buddies. The fact is, they're just going they call Max out in some regards, but they're just so fine with hey, let's go to this doctor's place and just randomly go in there, and he's denying being an alien, and we're just so okay with it. I mean, they're not. I don't know, to be fair, Sahara took what Max said in stride too. So it's just maybe it's just something about the people of patience or something. I don't know, but it's the kids are just so yeah, whatever. And yeah, it ended up being Max saving the day, him and his friends, because like, oh, we followed you, but it's like, hey, fine, I'm not admitting I'm an alien, but the person who lives in this apartment is an alien. It's because, yes, Max, you are the alien tracker. So it's like, hey, he doesn't get exposed, but it's so interesting considering like where things left between you and Sahara last episode. You were painting it like Harry's the one that killed the alien tracker, like you did something to him, but that was kind of where that was at. But now you're still going to like take him at, well, I guess it's like, I mean, Max is an idiot too, so he's like, ha, see, I'm an alien tracker. I think he himself has kind of lost the plot a little bit of like, no, I'm too busy trying to impress these other people because we started an alien tracking group. So it's like, which is actually kind of sweet in its own way, considering like, well, we know that the OG alien tracker was sadly on his own. I mean, he did conventions and stuff, but he was like a one-person team, and at least Max had Sahar, and now he's like got 2 other buddies too. So at least he doesn't have to kind of go through this alone, and he's making other friends too. So I'm sure that's gonna make his mom and dad happy. So especially his mom, I think she worries the most about that stuff. But either way, all the while this is happening, Asta and Joseph are on their date, and Joseph is he's like, okay, we could drop the facade, and I love Asta being like, all right, fine, we can say it at the same time of what you are, and they're like, well, okay, 1, 2, 3, a great alien asshole. Ooh, so you're both. And he's like, fine, like not only do I have Harry, but I also have Darcy. So tell me what I want to know about Harry, like, because for him, he's like trying to figure out why Harry is here. I wonder, does he even know what species Harry is? Well, no, he obviously doesn't, because he's like, what planet is Harry? So that's interesting. He know, because Harry knows he's, well, not even just a gray alien, he's a hybrid, he's half human, but it's like, he doesn't know what species Harry is, because Asta's like, fine, his real name is Bark, and he's from the planet Ark. And he's like, okay, I've never heard of that planet. Yeah, and there's this moment during that scene where you see like Asta's actress kind of break. I'm like, I don't know if that's her breaking in the scene and they decided like, no, screw it, keep it. Because I think, because like just her laughing and trying to like keep it in, I think that probably was real. I don't think that was planned, because even she's almost like, wait, is he falling for this? It's like, yes, Joseph's a fucking idiot. I love it. Because the entire time we were like, oh, like, Harry kind of, once again, Harry's always kind of toted that, like, humans are idiots in comparison to his species. But now we, like, see that, you know, Harry's an idiot. Once again, is that just because he spent so much time around humans? I doubt that. He was kind of an idiot to begin with. He's not really good at his job. I mean, I've probably made this comparison before. I think I've made it before. I think I've made it because I never realized it before, but the comparisons between this and Invader Zim. Zim is a complete and utter idiot, and so is Harry. I wonder, did Invader Zim at all inspire, like, playing any role in inspiring the original comic anyway? I wonder, did any of the creators from this take anything from Invader Zim? Not just like, was there ever any inspiration? I mean, I wonder, does anyone who's associated with even the comic or the TV show, or are they completely even aware of Invader Zim? There's like a lot of parallels, but either way, I think it's just one of those comparisons I'm surprised I never immediately made. I think I made eventually later on in the show, but I didn't initially make the comparison. It never crossed my mind. I guess I hadn't seen Invader Zim in so long. Either way, tangents and all that aside. But yeah, he's like buying all the BS, and it's just like, wow, Joseph, like, he's not some like, like he seemed like, oh, such a danger, but it's like, no, he's a bumbling idiot just like Harry. I mean, in fact, in a way, he's kind of like, him and Harry are probably like two sides of the same coins. They're both trying to do stuff to prove themselves. Because we find out later on, Joseph doesn't know anything. The Greys don't trust him with anything, because sadly he's an outsider to them, because he is, I guess, being half human. They don't look at him the same way. So it's like, right, you're useful to us, but that's all you are. Like, you're not part of like the main plan. So even he doesn't know what the Greys are really up to. But either way, I love, also going back to that Asa scene, I love that Jay shows up and she's like, I'm busy, Jay. And Jay goes over to Dan and it's like, yeah, Asta's in trouble. Yeah, who's that guy? It's like, yeah, like, and she wants to stick around, which I'm like, of course oh, that's sweet, Jay. But Dan's like, no, I got this. Don't worry. You go ahead, Jay. And it's like, I wondered, because Dan probably got a weird feeling too, but it's probably not until Jay said something that confirmed it. But And because Joseph tried to like scare Dan, but he's like, oh, like this town is filled with aliens. You're not going to like scare me. And so they drug him and knock him out. So, and that's where Harry and him have that amazing scene where it's just like, oh, you didn't tie me up. He's like, yeah, because if I tied you up, you'd break my chair, and then we'd get into I'd be forced to fight you. Then because I'm stronger than you, I'd throw you into the fridge. But then I'd have to have a fridge guy come inspect the fridge, and he would sit there and talk about his life, about the whole digital versus non-digital cameras, and just like the slow way that actor is delivering the lines too. And then it's like, oh, but the thing is, you wouldn't be stronger than me. He's like, I'd throw you, and then I squish your head. But then Harry's like, then I'd bite you, throw you into the window. But then the fridge guy, who's also the glass guy, would come and repair the window. It's like, yeah, so did I? And just both of them are in the scene, bored to tears by this guy's explanation. And Harry's like, I don't want to sit there and learn more about non-digital cameras than I already did. Like, it's just, I love that whole sequence. And the fact is that, like, Joseph's such an idiot, he's going along with it, too. I'm like, I love it. So, and it becomes that thing of, I want you to leave. He's like, okay, I'll leave when I want to, so I'm leaving now. It's like, but you're leaving because I told you to. No, I just made a decision that I'm leaving now, but I'm trying not to leave too quickly because I don't want you to think that I'm leaving because you wanted me to leave. I'm leaving because I want to. And it's just, they're so stupid and petty. But sadly, at the end of the day, he didn't learn anything. Which, interesting how this all kind of ultimately gets resolved, because the sequence of events is crazy, because it's like, because Mike was trying to get some sexy foot pics of Ben so that they can kind of sell them so that Ben could get some extra money, he ended up saying like, oh, there's this kind of lump on your foot. And he's like, oh yeah, come on, like, this ain't anything sexy or whatever. He's like, so, go ahead and spread your toes. And I'm like, oh, God, I love it. Which almost made me go, like, the fact is the way Mike was reacting, I was like, for him to be able to recognize a good foot, I mean, it almost kind of goes back to the real Harry's foot from season 1. It kind of ties back into that. But I was almost like, is Mike a foot? Like, did that come up in season 1? Because it felt like he was a foot guy. To be able to recognize a good foot, you have to kind of be in the feet. So Mike has to have some foot thing. So, but either way, that leads to Ben visiting Harry later on to get it checked out. And obviously it's like, okay, Harry recognizes, like, all right, they put an implant there. So he hypnotizes Ben to try and figure out what he witnessed. And what we saw was him going by a room full of a whole bunch of kids' shoes. There's even a snow globe from the beginning of the episode. I was about, did they take that girl? But it's like, no, they didn't. They, because that's the thing of, like, it seems like they only take children when they are, like, young, like when they're inside their parents, like when their parents still pregnant. Because it seems like up to a certain point, maybe it's a weird thing of, like, once a kid's hitting puberty or something, they have no interest in them, or it's like, maybe it's like we have to follow them since being inside the children to being inside their parents to, like, we have to follow, because they did take the alien tracker's child and still had interest in him even as an adult. So that makes me think it has to be a thing of they take interest in people that they followed since they were children. Because it's like, well, you never went after Max. You have no interest in Max, even though Max is special because he's one of the few humans. I forgot the percentage. Ain't it like 1 out of 1,000 humans is able to see what they look like? But we also, once again, questions I had last episode too, of I don't know if Max can only see Harry's species, or would he be able to see Joseph as a Grey as well? Or would it be a little bit different because Joseph's half Grey? I wonder would that be the equation, the situation. But I wonder, is this about a population thing? Like, are they trying to learn from humans so they can try and, like, reproduce? Like, is this, like, is their birth rates on the decline? Are they kind of like almost an extinct species and they're trying to revive, like, the reproduction cycle for their species? Like, but why take such an interest? And also, like, the Yellowstone, like, cause the little girl dropped it at 70 years ago, and the gray alien at the time picked it up and put it in that room of, like, they kept it in the same room that they keep the shoes of all the children, it seemed like. I mean, those seem like kid shoes, not less those are adult shoes of like the moms or well, because they don't just take the moms, they take the dad too. Well, except that I don't remember. I think the alien tracker's wife was taken, but I don't remember if he was ever taken. So why are they taking Ben as well? And that also might answer why they chose Ben and Kate because well, Kate's pregnant. I'm wondering like is that implying like they're the only pregnant couple in all of Patience? I mean, there's just still so many blank spots in all of this of like once again, what are they really after? The general knows some kind of she knows there's some kind of project at play and she hasn't pulled the trigger on it and she's not letting Harry know about it. I'm like, what's that about? Which is also kind of sad, that ending, like that scene at the end of that scene, because it's about right that hole inside of you when you've lost someone. It never goes away because obviously for the general she remembers losing her dad, and obviously the alien tracker never let go of losing his wife and their child and how much like what that did to them in the long run. So we circle back to the Kate and Ben situation because Kate made it clear last episode she wants to sell the house, and Judy's there being their realtor, even though she's not really one. She's just like, yeah, this is my aunt's business, and she lets me basically take over the places that she doesn't and the customers she doesn't care about. And I love it because it's probably they probably let the actress who played Judy like God, what was it? What's the word I'm looking for? They let her improv the way they cut that and just how it was all like overlaid on top of each other, and like I wonder were those like the different like just different takes and they were just like laughing so much. They're like, oh, let's include them all. She said like this place was like a murder suicide place, which I was like, all we focused on was the murder, and I love Ben was like, no, didn't the old lady that lived here fall down the stairs? She's like, well, yeah, like she fell down. Well, she got shot in the gut, then slipped and fell on her own blood down the stairs, and then got double tapped. I'm like, Jesus, what did that old lady do to deserve that? That's gruesome. That sounds extremely personal. That's brutal as shit. Because once again, it was an old lady who shoots an old lady 3 times. That had someone wanted some vengeance, but she also said it was like a murder suicide. We never got into the suicide of that, so I'm like, that's not unless that was a different incident. Like that's a separate situation. Not that she wasn't saying it was a murder suicide situation. There's been a murder and a suicide here, but the way she sounded made it sound like you killed old lady and then the perpetrator killed themselves. It might just be a gag. We'll never get any like a very dark gag, but I mean, there's a lot of places probably have that history. But because when you're selling a place, you're supposed to let people know. Because I think stuff like that is, I watch shows that's covered that. I've never been in that exact situation. I've never owned a home, so I've never been in that situation. But they're supposed to disclose like gruesome stuff like that. I don't know how far that goes. Like, does that include like, oh, this place used to be a drug den, like a whole bunch of like people would come here and get high, like before we clean the place up. Like, would something like that get disclosed, or is it only murders? Is that all across the board here in the States? Because I don't know if that's going to. I mean, I wonder is that applicable across all the different countries, or is that just something specific here to U.S. And even then, is that just a state to state thing? Because maybe some states don't have to report that stuff. I don't know. What's also interesting that Kate had no idea. Ben's known about it because it's like she's like, remember Ben? Judy's like, remember Ben? You did like a report on it and used up all the red crayons for all the blood, but also the brown because the lady shit herself in the process. It's like, Jesus. But Kate wants to sell the place. She doesn't want to live here anymore. But we find out later on the reason behind that is that I thought it was interesting. Like, well, I'll go ahead and finish my thought. Kate has been feeling uncomfortable lately. The alien abduction stuff is like starting to weave in both to her and Ben, and she wanted to kind of get out of the house. Obviously, there would be no getting away from this until they find out the truth about what's going on. But it's not the house because she loves the house. This is their home. But the problem is that she just doesn't know how to get away from like the uncomfortableness, which is interesting too because I guess that's where that stems from. Because what was it? Wait, you don't think the old lady was the little girl from the beginning of the episode? Because I was like, well, the little girl, it was like 70 years ago. I'm like, not unless it was the aliens that did it, but why would they do that? I mean, the little girl did see a gray, so I'm like, is there something to that? I don't know. Because the thing is, Ben, like, she wanted to go to Paris, and Ben was immediately like, Yellowstone. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. I was like, wait. And then, like, the ending, because that snow globe was from Yellowstone, and I was like, is that why he picked it? Because subconsciously he saw the most recent time he was taken, he saw the snow globe saying Yellowstone. So on some subconscious level, Yellowstone, because it did seem kind of like, well, you thought like, well, he doesn't want to spend too much money going to another country like Paris, so he wanted to kind of go relatively nearby. I'm like, oh, but he didn't just choose that out of nowhere. Like, it was buried in his subconscious mind. It makes you wonder, is there something deeper to that? But maybe they were just setting up that breadcrumb early on, and like, it's interesting because that's like the beginning of the episode. I don't even know if that scene with him and Kate is in the middle of the episode. It's later in the episode, and then you get the ending to tying that together. So, I wonder, is it going? I mean, there's going to be some significance because Yellowstone is going to be probably key to their plan in some shape or form, because it is like the next clue that hearing that kind of got Harry an idea. So maybe him and Asta will go to Yellowstone. Maybe, I don't know. We also had the whole Mike and Lena situation. Continuing from last episode, he's still got an issue because he's all about playing roles in the relationship. And he's just like, yeah, I love how smart and beautiful, how like into tactical knives she is. And the fact of the matter is she's independent. And I love that. But can't I find a woman who's independent and do what I say that she needs to do? It's like, oh, Jesus. But it's like Ben kind of had a similar issue where it's like, he's always kind of known the roles that him and Kate have had. And he's like, I'm the one that's always been the scaredy cat. I've always had fear. And he's like, now Kate's the one in fear. So how can I be the one that hides under the bed when she's already there? Which I was like, that's an interesting metaphor. I mean, it's meant to be metaphorical, but it's also like a kind of a literal thing. But I think it's like one of us needs to be the, like, I've always been the scaredy cat. That's always been my role. And it's like now that's kind of being, because I guess maybe he's taking comfort in Kate always being like the stronger, braver person. And he's always kind of takes solace in that. And now it's like we're both afraid. And it's like, well, that's kind of not a good way for, there's supposed to be balance in this. We both can't be the scaredy cat in a relationship type of thing. So thought that was interesting. But it also was playing into his conversation with Mike and his circumstances of he's so old-fashioned about things. He's like, he's very stubborn. He's very reluctant to change. And, Liv had, brought that up to him because it's like, oh, now not only was she paying for a meal or this or that, she's now paying for a full-blown vacation. And eventually, like, he's ghosting her because of it, which I love. He goes on this whole diatribe. It's like, well, that's what ghosts do. Like, if you don't talk to someone, like, that's what ghosts, that's the thing, they communicate with each other. But Lena ends up breaking it off with him because for her, it's like, I'm never going to change because when I care about someone, I show it. And Mike isn't always the biggest way, like, isn't the best at showing his affection towards someone, as we know. So it's like, right. And it's just, she wants to set a good example for her son. So she's breaking this off. And it's like, okay, and he's just taking it in stride, but it hurts, it sucks. And it leads to him doing some drinking and him and Judy shag. So that's interesting. It's like, oh boy, you're rebounded after a breakup, and it's just like, I think we'll see. I'm curious to see what happens in the long run for Mike. I think he will go through some changes. Like, there's a lot of stuff about himself that he's kind of worked on. He's still got a lot of issues about like the way he operates in his very like old school misogynistic mentality, but he's been working on it a little bit. But I hopefully he'll get better, and maybe him and Lena can fix things. Where this takes things between him and Judy, I have no idea. I don't know if that's going to be a thing, because hasn't she been like, I know she's got a thing for like Harry, but there's the whole like her and Darcy thing of like, oh yeah, like you're a skank and stuff like that. Like that, they haven't done it in a while, but that was kind of like their bit for a while. So I'm curious to see, will anything come of this? Will she like think they're official now, or like how is Mike going to handle all this? It's going to be interesting to see where that takes us, where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.